Welcome to Envision Entertainment. My name is Kyle Kryptonite. I am also here with my business partner, Mr. Grimm. And today we are conducting our sixth interview. And today is very special. This right here is legendary because we are here with the one and only Mr. Bob Scott himself today. Mr. Bob Scott, thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
You know, so, Mr. Bob Scott, we know that pro wrestling became your life. It became everything to you. Would you want to go through like some of your influences on when you picked it up, how did you pick it up, and why you made this your passion?
One of my biggest influences was Dr. Dusty Williams. I played football in school, did a little amateur wrestling. Wasn't really big on it. I didn't care for the coaches, all that good stuff. The politics that go with schools, sometimes sports, and you don't have the right last name. They use you, but try to be nice about that. It just come down to that, and it's always was a dream of mine since I was 12 years old, seeing my first match on my brother's television of Hulk Hogan and taking on one of the Wild Samoans, and just went from there, and reading magazines, watching it on TV, trying to pick up as much as I can, picking up old VHS tapes and all that and stuff. My first ever show I went to was with my dad back in January of 1988. Main event was the Killer Bees and the Bolsheviks. And what was cool about that night is we were at Jamestown Community College in Jamestown, New York. Fred Pulaski was one of the agents. So he was standing right next to where my dad and I were sitting. And he happened to sit down, and during when Nikolai Volkov and Boris Zukov came out, he goes, "I got to stand up for the Russian national anthem." My dad looked at me, I looked at him, we stood up with him. Boy, did we get pelted with objects. But it was well worth it. I wouldn't, you know, recommend that sometimes. But, went from there. Always was a dream. And in 2002, I met Dr. Dusty Williams at Darien Lake. He was working for a group called Christian Wrestling Federation. He and AJ Styles, a young AJ Styles, were there. So I was able to hang out with them for a couple days at this Christian music festival. Was able to ride roller coasters with both of them, and it was really fun. Towards the end of the festival, last day, Doc and I were like, talking and talking. And had a golf cart. He goes, "Why don't I give you a ride back to the campsite?" I said, "Okay." So as we're going, I go, "My campsite's right there," and he went right by it. I'm like, "Uh-oh, what's going on here?" And he goes, I've seen you, the last couple of days. We talked. He goes, "I'd really like to see you get trained to be a pro wrestler." And I said, at the time I was 29, I said, I think I'm too old. He goes, "No." He goes, "You got the heart. You got the desire." A year later, I started getting trained. First ever match was a Battle Royal for Empire State Wrestling. And before that, I had worked security for Empire State Wrestling. And it was in July. And we did this outdoor show, and it was the first time I ever really was a part of an independent wrestling fed. So I didn't know what to expect, and got to talk to guys, and see how they did their characters, and everything. This is cool. Well, later on, after one of the tag team matches, I was doing security. I was walking the tag team back. Well, this one fan got all upset and was going to go after them guys. I'm like, no, you need to back up. And he went to throw the beer, and I slapped the beer out of his hand. I wore it all down my security shirt.
Ooh.
But I'm like, okay, whatever. And then later on, in the main event, um, the guy that was a champion at the time was Johnny Puma, and he was hated by the fans. He they wanted to pull him into the crowd, so I got out there. I got between, and I was the only security there that night. And I'm pushing people back, like, leave them alone, leave them alone. Well, at the after show party, Johnny came up to me and he goes, "Ever thought about wrestling?" I go, "Yeah, I've thought about it." He goes, "I'm going to make a deal with you. The way you showed your professionalism tonight, I'm going to train you for free. You don't have to pay nothing. I'm going to train you for free." So he and a few other guys in New York started working with me, and just kept pushing, grinding, getting matches here and there, and did that battle royal, first ever battle royal. I don't like battle royals. I'll just tell you that. I'm not a big fan, but at first battle royal, the guy that eliminated me was a guy by the name of Nightmare Dre Gibson, and he just pushed me, put me right over the nice and easy. That's good, but other battle royals it was not that nice and easy. But so I went from there. I went to I did a outdoor show at Darien Lake. Kingdom Bound 2004. It's an outdoor show. Caprice Coleman was with them at the time. Manny Domingo, JT Starr, and another guy by the name of Fire Jeremy Elliott. Funny thing is with Jeremy Elliott, he was Dr. Death's protege. So I got to face him. I got to face his protege and ended up winning, beating him with a nice schoolboy roll-up. And we were supposed to have a rematch, but it would be an outdoor show. Anytime we're at that festival, Darien Lake, it always rained. So, we never had our match. We never got the rematch. And in some ways it was good because that rematch, he would have destroyed me. I know that. But went from there. I stayed with Empire State Wrestling for a while. And then I hooked up with a guy in Kentucky by the name of Fred Sasher, who became more than just my promoter. He became my best friend. And did shows with him down there. Had a main event match, one of the first matches I wrestled for him. It was myself and my late partner Rob Goldsby, Rob G Rock, and we took on a group of guys by the name of the Fat and the Furious. Little brother weighed 500 pounds. Big brother, older brother weighed 305. And it was at one point with me being the younger guy, I took the baby in that match. And I took a open hand to my ear. I felt like a gun went off in my ear. And I'm like, oh my. And it was 101 degrees out that day in that ring. And then the ring was plastic canvas. So anytime they dragged me, I was feeling that burn right on my face. And we ended up pulling out a victory. And that was great. And got experience because both them guys were with OVW. Jack Black and Vito Andretti. So, and great guys. Taught me a lesson on pain. And that was good. Went from there, did a couple more shows in Kentucky, and then moved back to New York and wrestled for Old School Pro Wrestling in North Tonawanda area. That was fun, but sometimes I just didn't feel like I fit in. I don't mind being a part of a faction, but when the way I see it, with a manager, the manager comes out with you, he stays out with you. Not with them, he would go back because he managed his sons too, which is all right. Well, it was all good and well. I stayed there, and then found year 2006, 2007, I ended up winning the Hardcore Championship in a 5-way. Captured the flag match, I guess you call it, because whoever had the final pin won the title. And I enjoyed it. I thought, man, this is going to be a great run. My first title, first belt. I'm going to enjoy this. But it just wasn't meant to be. Promoter and I, to see eye to eye on a few things. He wanted me to put his family before my family, and I'm sorry, my family comes first. Um, Within that same year, 2007, I wrestled my first show in Ohio, and I was on a card with Chance Prophet, Sin Bodie, and it was fun and stuff. So it was my first chance, to taste wrestling in Ohio, and who would have known 20 years later that'd be almost like my home bed. But went from there, and then wrestling has been good to me at that point because 2007 I lost two of my uncles within 20 days of each other. So I was, just getting through things. I had lost my father-in-law in 2006, who was like one of my biggest supporters, and that was tough. I had just did a show and then come home and find out he passed away. That was tough, and yeah, we always talked wrestling. We always talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about life. A lot of times when people came together, so that meant a lot. And then I went from there. And in 2008, I lost the hardcore championship in the end of December, and I'm like, I almost wanted to just say I'm done with wrestling. I wanted to call it a career. It just I wasn't feeling that fire in, and I was like, when I lost that belt, I felt like I lost my will to keep wrestling. But it just kept going, and then 2008, my son came into my life. He adopted my son Sheldon, and that lit a fire in me. Kept going and going, and 2009, my daughter was born, Paige, and I was like, you know what, it's time to step back a little bit, and I told that to the promoter, and he was like, what do you mean step back? I don't want to, do much. I want to be home with my family. Okay, no problem. Well, Empire State Wrestling had called me and they said, well, we're doing a reunion show. And they're like, make sure it's okay with OSPW that you come across town to be on the show. And I'm like, this should be a problem. And I talked to the promoter, and he's like, yeah, no problem. I had fun at the reunion show, seeing some of the guys I hadn't seen in a while. That was great. And then a couple days later, I found out I was on the alumni page of OSPW because I put something before them. It kind of hurt, but I'm like, you know what? I'm cool with that. So from there, I started doing stuff with Pro Wrestling Rampage in Erie. I started out as a referee, refereed some good matches. Met some tough guys like Shane Taylor, J Rock, John McChesney, Big Time Bill Collier. Um, so many good guys there, and I got to give a shout out to Jamie Scott. Wonderful guy. If he had hair, I'd probably give him a few gray hairs. We'll get into that in a little while. But I did the refereeing, and it felt good because it was giving me a chance to get that fire back a little bit more. And then 2010, I got a chance to wrestle in Indiana, which was fun, but it just traveling, it's long going there. But when I was younger, it didn't bother me, going there to wrestle, come back, next day and stuff. But then 2011, got the chance to manage the Bone Crushers, John and Manny Escobar, and felt like I was on top of the world with them too. It was more than me just being their manager and them my tag team. We were brothers. We would go to shows together. We'd hang out together. We'd eat together. And I just adored both of them. My kids knew John and Manny as Uncle John and Uncle Manny. And so great run beating up Jamie Scott, his partner James Santel, and stuff. And it was a blast. And then you know, that ended. So then I tried to, give me other guys to manage, and it just did not click. I did not find that click. So 2012, I gave PWR my notice saying I'm, done wrestling. And early 2013, I ended up going back to Indiana, wrestle a couple matches. And I was feuding, well, in 2012, I was also feuding in Indiana with a guy by the name of Preston Churchill. And uh, hot summer, I took one of those little Guitar Heroes to his head, got a nice goose egg and stuff, and right to the skull, whipped him off the ropes and smacked him with it. That was his idea. He wanted me to use it, and I used it.
Thank you.
So then, 2013, after we finished our story in October of 2012, we ended up a casket match where he ended up beating me in a casket match, and that was pretty much the end of the Doberman. At least that's what I thought. But went from there to 2013. I went back there, and I was going to just finish it up with them. I did a show in March, and it went over well. And in June, I was gone for a job interview. I was coming back, and I was going to swing by my parents' old house, and so I was coming down, getting off the interstate. I was coming down the back road, and Mama Deer decided to pop out in front of me. Well, I swerved to miss her. When I swerved to miss her, I rolled my Nissan multiple times, ended up on its roof. Was able to get myself out of it. Went to the hospital, and they're like, doctors like, how are you able to walk? Well, you know me, I'm not really sarcastic, but I don't take things seriously sometimes. I'm like, by my 2 feet, he goes, no, you don't understand. He goes, you got 3 compression fractures in your back. You shouldn't be walking right now. I said, well, it's a miracle, that I'm able to walk and stuff. So healed up. And then November of 2013, I walked away from wrestling. It's time to think about my kids. It's time to try to live a quote unquote normal life. And I tried. One of my biggest supporters was my sister-in-law, Robin, who's like my little sister. So she had talked to me in January 2014. She goes, I'm glad you gave up wrestling. I said, yeah. She goes, make me a promise that you're not going to wrestle again. I said, you got it. A month later, she passed away. So I was devastated.
Losing a loved one all the time, devastating.
Yeah, that was hard.
You all the way from the inside out. You don't know what to think. You get to losing yourself. Sometimes lose yourself. Not everybody loses yourself.
Yeah. I went from there. I did some refereeing, did some feds, but my heart just wasn't in it. And I did stuff with Rocky Reynolds. God bless Rocky Reynolds. A great guy. I did a couple of his fair shows, and Rocky was always top notch to me. Always, caring. Great guy. I can say enough about him. And then 2018, I started off with my mother-in-law passing away, and I just was like, I gotta find something. I gotta find an outlet to get away, to get out of this funk I'm in. And not too long after that, one of my big bone crushers passed away, Manny, and that hit me. And I remember going to the funeral home, and one of the guys that knew me for years, how you doing? And I lied to him, like, I'm doing fine. And I wasn't. And then after that, I lost a job, and my health was deteriorating. And I'm like, something's going on. And I had friends coming around me, but it just wasn't. I was a shell of myself. Something's got to change. Well, I just kept going. I tried hunting. I tried hunting to do that, to fill that need. Hunt did good. I tried umpiring baseball and softball. But wasn't helpful because fans would be yelling at me, and couldn't. As an umpire, you can't tell them to sit down and shut up. As a wrestler, you can tell them, sit down, shut up, and that's that. Because I did snap a couple times, and then they called the head umpire and said, he's being mean and whatever, tattling on me and stuff. So then it was about, I just kept going through, and in 2021, well, I was like working nonstop, trying to work and trying to, my dad was in a nursing home, and trying to take care of my mom who's living with us, and and jobs were taking advantage of me because they knew I wanted to work hard, so they were. So that's when COVID hit. So I was being a med transport driver, so I was taking people to medical appointments. And I was working 13 hours a day, no breaks, no nothing, and I was using energy drinks, and I'm diabetic on top of that, so I'm popping them and shooting my A1C right up there, and I'm like, great. So then I got out of that, and I went from doing that to being a security guard at the local casino bingo hall, and go from that, and things were going good and stuff. But then my dad took it, so it's on a Tuesday, got ill, and then the following week he passed away. But in that time, we were able to celebrate his 87th birthday, and spending time with him, and we weren't able to celebrate on his birthday with him, but we were able to celebrate that Friday. And I went to work after seeing him happy that day, and called my brother, said, "You need to go see Dad, it's better, blah blah blah." I get to work at 3 o'clock. I was about starting my shift, and I get a call from the nursing home saying your dad's taking a turn. You need to get here. So I told the boss I'm out of here, and I was there, and he hung around for a few days, and then he died on that Tuesday, June 1st, and that I went in downward spiral. That my dad was my world. We did so much together. We went to wrestling shows, went to baseball games. We went.
Yeah, you did. He took you to the first show in 1988 in January.
Yep.
The crazy part about that crazy year, you went January of 1988. I came literally that same following year, but didn't come until the summer, July 1988. That's crazy. That's crazy. Like, I was just this little guy. As you went to your first show, I was this little guy that came years later, 1988. That's when I came into the world.
Yeah.
Just a little guy.
But yeah, that was
Being behind Fred Blassie and all that.
Oh yeah.
Man, that's legendary. You can't say legendary. That's like classic and legendary both.
Yeah,
It's in the same pot because
he was great.
woo,
He was great
and
talking with.
Volkov and all them guys. And you got the shit you got for standing up for the Russians. Like, you already know.
I mean, you gotta do something.
Yeah. I mean, but that's what made you stand out back in your time.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know too much about the 80s wrestling because I grew up in the 90s.
Yeah, the
But
80s.
80s, boy.
You had your good guys. You had your bad guys. You could, you had to be. You had to take. You're supposed to support the good guys. Well,
That's still the territory, wasn't that still the territory days?
yeah, they still had you still had some territories going, which was nice.
Yeah. That's what Hogan was a big dude in the territory. 60s, 70s, 80s. He was a territory first.
Yeah. That's how I met some of the guys over the years that wrestled in the territories. And I just love listening to stories like Victor Destroyer Buyer, Missing Link Dewey Robertson. Just love listening to them guys talk. they had a, you know, they saw it, and when you approach them guys, you talk life with them. You know, if they wanted to bring up the part about wrestling, you let them. But if you want to talk life, they've seen it, they've done it, they've been there, they've done that. So
Did it,
yep. So that's what I was.
you probably saw Ric Flair in your time too.
No, I never got the chance to see him live.
That's crazy.
No, he was one of the guys I wanted to see. I never saw Hogan live either. So,
I got
but
to see Bret Hart, but then shortly after I saw him at the WCW show, his brother was there.
Yeah, I have to give her a hard time.
Bret Hart was, yeah, Bret was good.
I'm not gonna really get onto the topic because everybody knows that I'm a Bret Hart guy. Yeah, get a
Well,
topic.
when I saw him, he was tagging with Sting.
Sting goes, but Bret Hart was mine. He's not one of my favorites. Bret Hart.
Got to meet Paul, Nash,
Bret Hart was the number
see Bongo McMichael.
one. The whole Hart Foundation. The whole. Bret Hart,
You and your Bret Hart?
to the loose cannon Brian Pillman.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Brian was good guy.
That's why
Now
I
you look at his son.
Electric King is dope.
Oh, I love it.
Electric King is dope.
Just like him.
But I kind of get why he had I understood why after he left AEW and came to WWE, he didn't want to take on his name. He wanted to mold himself into his own person. Not try to.
I get that. I get
Just
I
that.
get that 100. I get that 100%.
It's a good idea to do that.
I get that.
You know, just like Braun Breaker. Didn't want the sign in him.
He didn't want to start him, but he still got the attitude. Like
He's still using the sign moves too.
He acts more like his uncle than he does.
He does. He's acting
I think
just like his uncle.
I think he got
The Steiner
more of the
mask.
Scott Steiner attitude, and then the Rick Steiner attire. Rick
Exactly.
Steiner had that leather coat, the singlet. Like I mean,
Mhm.
if he would pull out the whole old amateur dog head, the gear on his head,
Oh, the old amateur
that would
wrestling gear.
that would have been a Rick Steiner. Like he does like a lot of Scott Steiner.
Oh yeah, great.
Especially the moves.
Yeah. But I understand.
Yeah, I mean,
So
wrestling's always been good though.
my question is, what? I shouldn't say what. How did you get linked with AEW?
I get linked with Devin.
Yeah. How did you get linked to
The
the
death
death
sentence.
sentence that we have today? The death sentence that is done. How was you able to get linked with him? And what made you get linked?
Well, in May of 2022, Shango was talking to me about him wrestling going in Erie, and I'm like, cool. And I'm like, he goes, you could have any position you want. I said, well, I wouldn't mind being a commissioner. And you know, I go there, and old friend Marcus Knight.
Marcus Knight.
We've been good friends since the first time I met him back in 2009. I can always joke with him, tell him how long I've known. We've been friends since how old my daughter is, and my daughter's 16.
I met him.
Never been to an area all-star show my whole entire life. And
Now
that
look
was
at
the
you.
day
You're a
that I
fanboy.
sat there and met Marcus Knight for the very first time. After that, I looked up and I told people. I looked at this man and I looked at Eric, which goes by Homeboy Music. I looked at both of them when I was in their attendance that time. And when Marcus came out to the ring, he grilled me because I had understood that, he's a heel.
He's a heel.
But I didn't understand in the beginning. He grilled me because I had to put my hand up. And then afterwards, after talking to him, he was absolutely one of a kind, pure person. And after that, I told this guy and Eric that this guy right here is my favorite Erie All-Star competitor other than Dio Salvador. Them two guys are my legit guys. Those are my favorite two in the Erie All-Star arena. Is Dio Salvador and Mark Smith. But I shouldn't go too much in depth with that. We can go back to those two. But I want to know the story of how he got linked and what made him get linked to our one and only Devin Beckers.
Well, I went to the first training, and I was watching him training, watching some other guys running, like Myers and Spain was there that day, and Brennan, stuff, and I'm just watching, and then
I think at the time Ed Grace was there too.
I think so. I'm not for sure. He might have been, but it was like between watching Devin and then watching Brennan, and I'm like watching both of them. And at that point, my daughter wasn't with me at that train, but the next one that we went to, I said, "You gotta watch this one guy. It's really, piqued my interest." And I didn't even point him out to her. She goes, "That guy," and she pointed at Devin. She goes, "He's piquing your interest." I go, "Yeah." I said, "This kid here, I think he ever gets into wrestling, once he gets trained fully, I said, I think I want to manage him." And then, didn't think much of it. We talked back and forth and stuff. I was like, "Hey, how are you?" and stuff through Facebook. But then at the tail end of my career, last year, after, to me, my career has hit a plateau. I mean, I came back in 23, 10 years after my car accident, pretty much, and was in a battle royal, which got thrown out of. You know,
You and
happens.
them battle royals.
And then, then the following month, July 6th, I ended up going in another battle and ended up winning it. That was my first ever win in a battle royal. And that was fun. And then I was facing guys like Brandon Miller, Schizo, and some other guys, and I just felt like I hit a plateau. And it's like these younger guys are getting stronger. They're coming up. I got to figure out another way. Either I need to, step back and get out of it, or find a new avenue. Um, and I was training with Rick Lee last year, and one day, and I'm like, "Dude, I can't do this. It's just for me." He goes, "You got to get out of your head." And I was like, "Okay." And then my daughter's like, "You got to get out of your head. And then in July, my mom passed. So then it was like, there's no way I'm gonna be going back out there as a good guy, because I just can't do it. I missed the show in August because I was at a Fireman's convention in Niagara Falls. Um, that weekend, Devin debuted on Global, and I was watching it, and there's my boy. And immediately I got a hold of Andrew Burkett saying, I want to manage him. I said, "Let's figure out, I'll be a pro officer, I'll be whatever we need to do with this." He goes, "Let's go for it." And, October, him and I debuted, and it's been one heck of a ride. I can't thank him enough for trusting me. And it's like what I felt with the Bone Crushers. We had that same kind of bond.
You guys do have chemistry. That's what makes it so remarkable. Because when I saw and met you for the very first time and saw you go through the curtain, I was like, "What are they doing? What are they setting up here?" And then out of nowhere, when you hear the police sirens and having you come out with the handcuffs,
Yeah, and it's just so
it's
it's so fun.
so crazy.
It's kind of like the fountain of youth with him.
Yeah,
Because
it gives you new energy.
it gave me great energy. We're talking, and I gotten so many compliments from everybody's like, "Man, you got it. You figured you got it," and it's great.
Because once you guys put that together, it just gave you like goosebumps. It's just like, oh yeah,
Yeah, and I love how we do it. Like, I'll come out first, I'll look around,
I
and
think the
I'll
last
bring them
one I
out.
saw Fate out there too.
Yes.
yeah. That was like the greatest chemistry I've ever seen come together. Yeah, I was like, holy cow. of like a correction officer bringing out an inmate to a battlefield, saying that this is my soldier, and he's just gonna wipe his hands clean with whoever is
But the fact
across
that
from him.
he's going as a good guy and the correctional officer is the bad guy is.
It's like I'm the devil's advocate. It's like I'll hand them something like here, take this.
Yep.
I don't want to use that knife. I don't want to do that.
Nope.
You need to do that. Or if I interfere in a match like I did with Mr. Donovan Colasar when I hit him with the handcuffs. You know, I mean, it's funny when I watch Globo after I've done a match because I love to hear what the play-by-play is being said, and I can just laugh, and I'm
With
like,
Rick in the background. And stuff,
oh
it's
yeah,
like, you hear that, it's
Rick's like, oh, I didn't see him nothing. There must have been a bug on his skull or something.
He
And
swung
I'm
on
like,
the flag and landed on him.
oh my god! And that's the other thing. Rick reminds me so much of my mentor Johnny Kuma in New York. And if you look on my Facebook page, you'll see myself with Johnny Kuma. He had sent me that picture today, back when I was a champion. Him and I standing together. I'm like, that's the picture. That's he's always been inspired
That's the
me.
profile picture right there.
He's always been inspiring me. And then when I met Rick Lee, I don't have to toot Rick Lee's horn too much because he's good enough.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, between him and the Beast Ken Seminara, they're the ones that got me back into like, hey, come on over to Ohio, check it out, and there too that got me back.
That's good. Yeah, the chemistry of you and Brother Douglas, like, it's remarkable how you
That's
get
a
put
perfect
together.
fit.
But it's a great fit. And that's what lead into the whole toxic incarceration right now. Like that is
Yeah,
a little
that's another
that's crazy. Shout out to Brother Marcel and Douglas on that aspect.
Yep.
That
And
right
then with
there.
DK and All Stars,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
great chemistry between all of them.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Good, do we have any more?
Mention that she held the hurt.
This is the hardcore title. Not to say that I didn't want to go after other titles, but to me, I was always like, I'd gotten that point early on in my career. It's like, I don't need something to find. I want to be the one that, when we go out there with whoever I faced, whether it be a former hardcore champion like Derek Somerville, the serial killer, who I beat for that belt, and that was great, But there was other guys that, like I would meet a guy like Kevin Rozier, who was a former UFC guy. We talked, and at one point we were supposed to be a tag. That would have been awesome. Him tagging, him and I tagging. I mean, you want to talk about David and Goliath? I mean, he was so much smaller than I was. One time we were even in the ring, just joking around, training, and I was hitting him with everything. He goes, "You got to hit me harder than that." I'm like, "Okay," and we just wailed on each other. At one point, he goes, "You want to play a joke on the floor?" I go, "What?" He goes, "I'm gonna bring a kick up and it's gonna miss you, but you go flat." I said, "Oh yeah." I was supposed to defend the belt that night, so everybody, the promoter wasn't paying attention, but everybody around the ring was. All of a sudden, he hit it, and people go down, and then you hear everyone go, "Oh my gosh!" And the promoter goes, "What did you do?" And he goes, "I kicked him." I laughed. I had to lay my head out and laugh. But, there were so many guys that I would love to have a chance to have been in the ring with. Another guy was late Mike McGee, who was a hardcore champion in New York. That I had when the belt was going up. They had one of the older belts, and that's the one that he held, and that's the one I wanted. I said that's the one I want to hold. And so when he passed in 2014, that belt was given back to his son, and they put it in Deer Bay. Yeah, that was emotional. Mike and I, we had talked. He was the older guy that always wanted to give young guys a push, but they never promoted, never wanted to let him. that was the thing. When I got back into it, young guys were wanting to talk to me. I want to be like, I want to get you guys my knowledge. I don't want you guys to be super suicide. And that's where I'm at now. It's more like I'm a mentor to the young guys. Yeah, if I have something I gotta do with a spot or show or whatever, I'll get that done. But my main focus is to be there for the young guys and the young girls or whatever. Get that push. Yeah.
You always learn something from something.
Yeah.
That's what they always say.
Everyone's got the knowledge.
Exactly.
You gotta stick with the people that you'll open the door, but don't expect them to make you walk. They're not gonna walk you through the door. You gotta make sure you walk through that door
Exactly.
yourself. They're gonna drop the jewels on you. They'll give you the knowledge of doing it, but you're gonna have to take it, want it, and own it. That's all. If you take it, want it, and own it, you'll be straight to walk through any door you want. If you got to sit back and want it, drop the jewels on you. That guy dropped a lot of jewels on me personally. And that's why I have to really.
If any of it actually happened.
Yeah, you've been conquering a lot. Throughout.
I know. I remember you had that one tough day, and I remember I went right up to you, and I said, "You got to get out of your head." And I was like, "Man, I don't want to see you giving up. I mean, you don't understand me. When I have someone I look at, and I'm like, I want you to succeed."
Yeah, the one day he was telling me that he had a bad day. It's like out of your head. Because if you stick in your head, you're done.
It's the worst thing to do. Oh, it's a cage. There's no key to unlock
Hard
it.
to
It is. That's why that day I'm like, man, I don't want to see this happen.
well, that was mine. You have anything?
I was just wondering about the titles.
Substitute.
Titles on
Yeah. Oh,
Granted, hardcore titles are good too.
They're hardcore, dude.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna go stick to hardcore. No, absolutely not.
I mean, I got the one scar right here on my
Yeah.
right there. That's from Garbage Can. I got dragged across.
Garbage can, barbed
So
wire.
like the scar that Brandon had it on him on Marcus also. Get that chair just right.
But, all right. Well, I think that's about it.
Welcome.
Thank you.